What's going on? I go by V the Designer, and today I'm going to be making the case for albums in 2024. Let's get into it.
V has come too.
First and foremost, let's talk about streaming. Let's rephrase it. Streaming is the new radio. What do I mean by this? Back in the days before the internet, radio was the most widely available form or medium or means by which people were able to experience music they've never heard before, and at mass, that's pretty much how people consumed it. Radio was then used to direct these new fans and these new listeners to the album. I think that with streaming, being the way streaming is, we need to kind of do the same, because here's the thing, just like radio, streaming is all about the hits. You can put your whole album on a streaming platform and hey, that's great, but streaming is all about virality, just like radio. It's all about what's popular. We need to stop treating streaming platforms like CDs, unfortunately. Here's the thing, even back in the day, the value of your album was greater than the sum of its parts. Not every single track deserved to be on radio, but there was value in those tracks in that you held that content back as it being exclusive to the album. And when a fan was able to buy that album, they were able to connect more intimately with the artist that they were supporting. And that's the thing about it. Albums are intimate experiences that can be enjoyed publicly, similar to video games, similar to movies. Like, we consume these together, but we can also consume these things by ourselves. And if you look at video games and movies, that's kind of how it is. Like, you're going to a movie theater with a whole bunch of people. It's a public showing, but you're not talking to people. Like, this is something you're doing with you and, you know, whatever shorty you brought. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty much how that goes. You know what I mean? One other point I want to make. Back in 1999, the music industry was worth about $22.7 billion. If you compare that to today's revenue, which is usually around 16 billion, there's a lot of money missing. And that's because in the 1990s, artists lost their product due to music piracy. We have to change the way that we treat our music. So this kind of drives into the second point. Artists no longer have a product. And this is true. With a product, you can choose how much you're going to sell it for. You can choose who you're going to sell it to, and you can also have influence over the merchandising. With streaming, all of that's gone. All of that music is being commoditized and homogenized and provided everywhere lightning fast for nothing. Artists are being paid fractions of a penny per stream. Here's the thing, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. There are artists that are going to be successful in streaming just like there are artists that were successful in radio. There's no knocking that. But the difference between then and now is that back then, whether you did well at radio or not, you were still driving your fans to buy a product that you made. And that's something that I believe needs to return. Here's the thing. If streaming platforms only incentivize virality, unless you're DJ Khaled, you're never going to do as well as you should on the platforms. And that's even if you do well. Let's take like a Nas versus a DJ Khaled. With a Nas album, I mean, now I'm gonna be honest with you, the last 3 albums have just been fire. They've just been phenomenal. Like, let's just start there. But typically with Nas albums, the sum of the tracks are greater than the parts. There'll be a couple of joints in there that you might like, but the album cuts themselves are to be intimately consumed and really you like vibe out to those, and that's how you enjoy that particular project. And I could say the same for like a Kendrick Lamar, a J. Cole. Like, streaming is going to do wonders for that artist that's just putting out hits, like hit after hit after hit. But when it comes to cohesive bodies of work, it's just not the case. And I think that a lot of artists are fighting a war that they really just don't need to even engage in. So there's also talk that people have shorter attention spans, and I think that that's bullshit. Like podcasting, it's just audio, just like an album is, but you're just listening to people talk for like hours and hours on end. The most successful, I would say probably the most successful audio streaming service out there is Audible. And these people are uploading novels, you know what I mean? And what does that say about us? I mean, on one hand, it's like, okay, well, the people who are consuming novels might be a different type of consumer, but are they though? Are they? I think that people who listen to audiobooks also listen to albums, and audiobooks are doing pretty well. In addition to that, you have movies and video games, which I will grant you are more interactive experiences, but none of these mediums have decreased in duration. I don't believe that people just have shorter attention spans. I just think that the platforms themselves are not incentivizing the creation of great albums. Spotify has very arbitrary rules, and as you saw in the last update, 30 seconds is what counts as a successful stream. So you basically have to say something that's going to get your listeners' attention in that first 30 seconds. And then after that, you have to get like 1,000 plays in a certain amount of time in order for it to monetize. Like, again, this isn't your product. You are Spotify's product. And that kind of brings me to this last point here. Artists have become the new commodity. Artists used to be artists. Like, first off, no artist wants to be a commodity. I would say art is the complete opposite of a commodity. And yet, streaming platforms have made artists a commodity because streaming platforms want you to add content to their platform so that they can make what? Playlists. And then those playlists can sit on their platforms for hours and hours and hours on end and make that money. And that's the problem. Like, that's where I look at this whole argument about people having shorter attention spans, and I just say, nah. People are binge watching shows. I think people have more time than ever to decorate their time, that being with music. It's just platforms are not incentivizing albums themselves. Finally, let's get into what we need to do. The first thing that artists need to do is that we need to treat DSPs like radio. We can't put all of our music on the DSPs. We need to hold some of them back for direct-to-consumer products like Even or Bandcamp, and then put our content there so that there's an incentive for your listeners to support you. They'll have exclusive content there so that it feels like they're actually getting something valuable. If you put your whole album on a DSP and then you have your full album on a direct-to-consumer product, and it's more of like a thank you for honoring me in solidarity, here's a pity payment. No, you need to treat it like, hey, this is the highest tier and expression of my art, and this is where you can get. Another thing I think artists can do is maybe put 3 or 4 tracks on the streaming platform and then add another skit track to their album and say, hey, if you want to hear the whole album, go here. This is how you can support me. Treat it just like radio. Put your own drops in your own albums just like they used to with radio tracks. I don't know. I think it's a dope idea. I think I'm a genius. I don't know. I think that's a dope idea. Another thing you can do is check out what I'm building. I love bodies of work. I love cohesive albums, and I've been working on a high-end content distribution platform called Pedestal. You can find out about it at pedestal.dev. Please check it out. You will not be disappointed. Last, artists need to support artists. We are literally rebuilding an industry from scratch. Artists need to champion other artists, and we need there to be success stories about artists making 10,000, 20,000, millions off of direct to consumer. This needs to be done. I love hearing about $1,000 albums and $100 albums, and just people shifting that conversation forward to bring new life to this industry that was just devastated back in the 90s. I think that we have something magical here. There's an opportunity here, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Please like, share, subscribe, and join me in the comments. I'd love to have this conversation. Make dope art. Peace.